Hi, I'm Brian with GuruFi, and welcome back to our series on how to get into graduate school. Today, our topic is the three most important factors in picking which school to apply to. I'm not going to leave you in suspense. I will tell you that in order of importance, department, advisor, school. In my opinion, that's how you should think about what are the most important factors to look for, and I'm going to describe a little bit why. The first thing I would warn you about is not to fall too in love with school brands. All the time, I work with clients who are fixated on going to an Ivy League school or to Stanford or Cal Berkeley. And it is true that the Ivy League and a couple of elite schools are more likely to have great programs, but it's not in the thing that you're interested in, but it's not always the case. And so what you don't want to do is backwards engineer a way to attend what you view as an elite university, even if the program fit isn't there. There are a lot of fantastic programs and a lot of really accomplished advisors at universities that you might not think of as being elite. So, the kind of the most prominent one, Iowa, the University of Iowa has probably the best writing program in the country. That's not an Ivy League school. It's a perfectly good university, but again, you would rather go to Iowa probably than to, Harvard, Yale, or Stanford or something like that, even though they also have strong programs. Also, in terms of your overall graduate experience, university for graduate school will probably impact you less than the program or the advisor, because in graduate school, it's often the case that you're very much almost within this hermetically sealed bubble that is your program, and especially if you do doctoral work, you'll really develop kind of a long and very close relationship with your advisor. And so those are the things that will impact your growth, your success, in a lot of ways, your personal and professional happiness. And so my overarching theme and idea as we move through this process is do your research, have a specific plan for what you want to study and why, and use that to help you figure out the best program, advisor, and university to pursue. When I work with clients one-on-one, one of the things that I'll actually have them do, and I used to do this with students back in my days as a professor, I've had them get out a note card and write down the answer to three questions. First, I want to attend graduate school because. Now, we've talked a little bit about this in previous videos about how important it is to have a really clear why. Number two, I want to work with an advisor who's an expert in fill in the blank, and you want to be as specific as possible here. And then for the third note card, the traits and resources I seek in a graduate program are, and again, be as specific as possible. And the reason that it's really useful and important to do this up front is that it gives your search greater clarity so that you know precisely what it is that you're looking for, and you'll be more likely to find a place that's a good fit for you. Let's talk about programs for a second, all right? The place that a lot of people are going to begin, and it's a fine place to begin, is to look at program rankings. So you say, okay, I want to go to chemical engineering. So you go to U.S. News and World Reports and see what chemical engineering programs are the highest ranked. That's fine. I'd also encourage you to look to see what their metrics are. Think about whether or not they're strong in the particular area of that subject that you're interested in. Are there multiple professors who are doing research in that area that you're interested in? Are there highly accomplished professors that are doing research in the field that you're interested in? Check to see if the program or the university fully funds its graduate students. And you can typically find this on a program's website, and also how, right? So it's important to understand whether or not they expect you to find grants, it's automatically given, whether this is done through teaching or lab work, etc. Find out that information about the program and the university. Some universities, like most Ivy League schools, graduate programs for doctoral programs are going to be fully funded, less so with master's programs. Lastly, are there other specific resources, equipment, relationships, or support within a particular program that you're interested in that you see as vital or even indispensable for doing your intended work? We're going to talk more about how you establish contact with potential advisors and mentors in a future video, but I do want to touch on a couple of things that are really important here. When you're thinking about graduate programs, you should absolutely think about the professors who are there and be very specific. Don't just say, I'm interested in chemical engineering. They've got some great chemical engineering professors. Find out about the specific professors within the department. Check the department's webpage and find people whose intellectual interests jive with yours. Follow up. Right? So you have a list of names. Check out their publications, read them, assess them. Are they high quality, well regarded? We'll come back to that in a second. Think about how and whether their work and ideas could strengthen or improve your work, or add insights to the questions that you're interested in pursuing, or their training, perspective, strengths, etc., can help you augment the areas that you're looking to strengthen in graduate school in preparation for the career that you want. All right. Really think about them in terms of not just professors who will teach you something, but mentors who will prepare you for the thing that you're looking to do. Ask whether your ideas fit with their research agenda and whether you can add something to their research. It's especially important with doctoral applicants. If you're applying for a Ph.D., a lot of times it's going to be the case that you will be working in their lab or somehow working under them, doing research for their books, etc. And so if you have a skill set that would be useful to that professor, one, it'll oftentimes help you in the admissions process. And second, it will also provide you the type of mentorship and personal relationship that can really help you grow within the field that you're interested in learning about. In terms of assessing potential academic advisors, I understand that it can be hard to do and maybe even a little bit intimidating, because at this phase, you're not an expert. And so how is it that you are going to evaluate someone who is presumably much more expert and experienced in this field? That said, especially if you're going into academia, your family tree, that is who trained you and who trained them, that matters a ton. All right. A lot of this is a relationship game, but it's also the case that people will sort of view you within the context of the school of thought that you're coming from. Johnny trained you in this particular field, so the assumption is that that's kind of how you will approach a problem or an idea or a controversy within a field. Okay, so understand that you will end up coming from a family tree. If you have an undergraduate advisor or mentor, ask them about the reputation of the people and programs in universities. Sometimes their advice will be a little bit dated, but that's not always the case. They can let you know this professor is well regarded, this program has a reputation for training and educating their students well. They can also, give you other pieces of advice that, this department is cutthroat and they have a reputation for that. And one of the things that you should care about in this process is to think about the happiness of the grad students. We'll talk about this again in a later video in terms of reaching out to students who are within programs, but this is an important consideration. You're going to be there for a while. You don't want to be miserable. And lastly, if you are to get a job in industry or, the middle ground, a postdoc, whatever it is, find out what their placement record is. Ask departments about this. Do they get people into the types of industry positions that you want? If you're looking to become an academic, do they do a good job of getting people into tenure track positions? All departments keep this data. You don't always get it without asking, but that information is out there. We'll return to some of this, like I said, in a later video so that we can dive deeper into these questions about these personal relationships and finding out what life is like within a program. But I want you to just benchmark it or bookmark it rather for now as a thing to consider and to think about, because it's really important. One little quick aside. This is for people who are in the sciences, especially. One way of getting some insight into how well regarded a professor is within a field is to look at what's called the journal impact factor. For sciences, especially, other social science or humanities, less so. Basically, a journal impact factor shows how much a journal article is cited. And that gives you a sense of how important and well regarded it is. That is, if someone writes an article that everybody is citing and referencing, that means it's probably a more important work. As a general matter, better work tends to go to better journals. And top journals is generally more likely to be a leader in their field. This is not always the case. All right. Don't use this as the only metric, but it's a way that you can, if you're not sure, you can look up people's publications and see what journals they're in. Use the journal impact factor. Usually in your undergraduate library's online page, when you look up these articles, there'll be a tab or a link or a line for the journal impact factor. It's not the be all and end all. It's just a useful tip. Typically a score of 3 or higher for a journal impact factor is pretty good. 10 or higher is exceptional, and about a 1 is average. All right, final thoughts. Take your time with this phase. Don't fall in love with university branding. Just because something is not Ivy League or the university doesn't have an elite name or something like that, it doesn't mean that the program isn't great or that the professors there don't provide excellent training. And also, as an aside, it's frequently the case that people within the field will know that this is a university that does fantastic work in the field that you're interested in. So you would actually be much better off going to that university, great program, than some big shiny university name. Think in terms of, could I be there for 2 to 8 years, right? So from my experience as a graduate student and also working in a university, if you show up, and this is especially true for people who are pursuing PhDs, if you show up saying, I'm going to endure this process, I'm going to tolerate it, it's not going to be something that I'm going to find exciting, I'm just going to get through it so I can get my PhD. Those people had the highest dropout rates. You need to be careful and thoughtful about where you want to go so that the place that you end up is a place that you will be challenged and that you will enjoy, that you can pursue your passion. If you show up there and you chose the wrong place because you were in love with the name and you're miserable, the chances are you will not finish. I'm telling you, graduate school can be a grind, 10x so if you don't like where you're at. So really work to find a program and a mentor who will empower you to explore the questions that you're fascinated about. All right, thank you. In our next episode, we're going to talk about getting a strong letter of recommendation. So I hope that you'll come back. In the meantime, once again, I'm Brian with GuruFi. That's GURUFI.com. As always, please check back with us for the next video. Be sure to like and subscribe so you get notifications for when our next video is uploaded. Be sure to check out our website. That's GuruFi.com, GURUFI.com, for all your help with graduate school admissions essays and all other application written material. If you have any questions about the service or applying to graduate school, check us out. You can send us an email, service@GuruFi.com. Once again, I'm Brian, and thank you. I'll see you guys next time.